these interviews are going to be slightly different, so it's not going to be a presentation at you, it's just going to be an interview between the three of us, but just like with the presentations, you're going to have time to ask your questions at the end if I didn't ask the right ones. So let's start off by maybe just briefly introducing these two. So Nicolas.
Paul. Hi everybody. Yeah, I'm founder of, co-founder of Flaconi and of Zenloop. I started before 7 years with a friend the journey of being in the startup scene. Beforehand I worked in consulting, and we decided kind of found our own company because actually we saw a niche in the market that there was no proper online shop for beauty products, and we thought that there are great products, emotional products, and we need an emotional shopping experience for this. And that's why we started Flaconi, did that for 6 years, sold it before 2 years to ProSiebenSat.1 and left last year and immediately found another company which is now dealing with customer satisfaction and improving relationships between people.
But originally you studied economics, so you studied economics, right. You went abroad and then went into consulting.
Right, yeah, kind of, I did the classic, like I studied in a public university, then in a private one, then I did consulting for 2.5 years, learned a lot in consulting, that was actually a good start, and then did our own thing.
What time did you meet your co-founder?
I met him in university in the same flat where the kind of Studentenwerk puts us in the same flat, and kind of we lived together, got best friends, and then founded the company together and got even closer friends. It's like founding together with somebody is somehow like a relationship even. You spend 16 hours a day together for 3 years in a row. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I bet, life-changing relationship all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And Nicolas, you came from a background in management coding.
Yeah, so I study software project management, still trying to get my master's degree finished. I have my last thesis to finalize here on the side, so I've been studying alongside my work at Slush. So Slush is a non-profit organization that runs the biggest tech event in Europe. So we have 20,000 attendees, a bit more than we have here today. And we also do events in Tokyo, Shanghai, and Singapore, alongside maybe 50 to 60 other satellite events throughout the year. So I'm not the official founder of things, but during my time at Slush in my role, we basically opened up all these new events across the globe. And also we started Slush Music recently, which is a vertical event to Slush for the music industry and focused on the music entrepreneurs.
Right. You told me you went from being the head of parties to now actually making things happen.
Yeah, so...
that sounds like an interesting journey.
so Slush is run by students, so the average age in our office is 25. And we have 2,300 volunteers running the event in Helsinki. I came in as a volunteer, and I was full-time volunteering for like 8 months with the title Head of Parties. So I basically was recruited in a way where I really wanted to get involved, and then I got an intro to one of the guys working there, and he basically just started saying that, okay, we're growing as an event, and there's all these satellites going on, like now outside of the venue, and somebody needs to take care of these. And then he just started typing on his laptop, like just writing down all of these side events. And after like 40 minutes of him just talking and explaining, he goes like, so do you want to do this? And I'm like, do what? Well, do these parties. And I'm like, okay, what's the plan? And he's like, I just wrote it down. And I thought for 3 seconds, and I said, okay. And then you can figure out your title later on, but here's your plan, start doing. No clue of what Slush still was at the time, but you just grabbed the opportunity and started doing.
So how would you describe Slush now within one sentence?
Slush now. So the purpose of Slush is that we serve the next groundbreaking founders. That's why we exist.
And how big is that now?
So globally, in all our events, is probably like 50,000 attendees. And we have an organization, if you count all volunteers and pros, it's about like 5,000 people annually at the moment, like working for,
We're
or
still
to make
working on
Slush
that here.
happen in one way or another.
And for you, Nicolas, you said you first worked at Flaconi to get a more emotional customer experience in there, and then you switched to Zenloop, or you now founded Zenloop, because that was what was missing at Flaconi.
Right, kind of what we do right now is something we did at Flaconi. So we measured at Flaconi at different points in the customer journey how happy the customers are, used a certain methodology for it, NPS, Net Promoter Score, and didn't have a software for it. And we collected thousands of comments per day from customers to understand what we can do better and which customer is unhappy. And now we are building a software for this kind of for all types of companies, but it's not only companies. Actually, the vision is, like, my dream is that Angela Merkel gets in the future every day a letter in the morning on her desk where it stated how likely is that that you as a German would recommend Angela Merkel to a friend or a colleague as a chancellor. And she gets a summary of what the people think, what she can do better, what she where she's good at, and this software is now running at, I don't know about you, within a couple of e-commerce shops. And yeah, that's what we do right now.
I mean, today is all about, making mistakes and learning from them and so on. So your topic is, I have the guts, I founded a startup, but telling all these people here who might be about to found a startup or who have already found one, what are the mistakes that you can avoid when founding?
How much time do we have?
Well, I'm very strict on time today. No, we have a little more time.
It's good. Actually,
What are the biggest mistakes you can avoid?
I think we did a lot of mistakes, and actually I see mistakes, as you see with my current company, I see mistakes as a great chance to learn and to improve. I mean, that's what our company currently is about, to learn from others and improve based on that. Probably the biggest mistake we made in terms of it almost killed the company, not only one time, but a couple of times. Our business in e-commerce and in many startups is based on external financing, so you need to collect money all the time from venture capitalist companies or others. And at one point of time in 2012, it was roughly, we had like money for 3 months. And said, okay, we need to start a financing round. That was kind of the first mistake. It's always too late. So that's what I see in my angel portfolio companies where I'm invested is, people think it takes 3 months. Normally it takes like 6 months or longer. So we started too late. Then we got a commitment from a big VC, Tengelmann, who said, it's a great company, actually we want to invest. We even put these guys in front of our team and said, these are our new investors. It's great, be nice to them. And then they started to do a due diligence and looked into the books and try to find out, is it a good company or not? And then they realized that we didn't have proper accounting in place. One of my responsibilities to make clear that we have numbers, that we control the bills and so on. And we just didn't have it. Like after 2 years, we didn't have a proper accounting. And then they said, guys, we're really sorry. We need to withdraw from our commitment. And that was a really bad moment because we had money for 2 weeks left. And at that point of time, I realized biggest mistake, and that's, I think, from the perspective, it sounds a bit boring, but having a proper accounting in place and know your numbers is extremely right, and that's something most startups, or at least many startups, don't do right at the start, because it's something you cannot just learn on the way, as you can learn in other topics.
Have your accounting in place and that the investors are not cash yet. If someone's interested, you don't actually have cash yet.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we had, in that summer, let's say we were bankrupt almost for 3 months. I think the worst moment in the Flaconi time was indeed at that time when we had the 8th of the month and I didn't pay my the salary to the team. That was really bad. I actually still get emotional when I have this in mind, how that felt at that time. And that was just purely because we missed the accounting. And the second learning was from that, a commitment from somebody is not a signed contract. So That's something I hear often as well from startups. Yes, we have great term sheets from different VCs. They're so interested, they love us. But that actually doesn't mean anything. It's like in the moment when you're at the notary and the contract is signed, then you can at least to 80% rely on monies on your account. Whereas we even had contract signed and the money didn't arrive afterwards, and that can happen as well. So that was probably the biggest mistake from that perspective, was not having the right numbers in place.
What role does money play in the Slush conference? Because you mentioned earlier that you started out as a volunteer and that most people working there are students, so no one gets paid, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we have a core team that starts the year in Helsinki, so all our global teams run independently, but with the same philosophy and so on. But talking about the Helsinki team, so we are about, now this year we started with about 50 people that starts like planning in the beginning of the year, and they are the ones that kind of work full time on it. So we get just enough pay so we can not have to worry about how to pay rent, or like how to, you know, run a different job on the side, or like have to get, you know, a study loan or something and all of that. So there's some pay, but everybody gets the same pay. We only have like 2 different tiers, and it's totally transparent in the whole organization. So like if you have graduated, you get one salary, and then if you haven't, you get a bit less, because you get all these student benefits when you still have a degree, and basically that's why the ones that haven't like got their degree yet, or like finished studies, get some more money because they have more living expenses, basically. So it pays like something, but that's not the point. Then we scale it to about 100 people in April, so the conference in Helsinki is now in the end of November, and then we have, in the beginning of August, we have like 200 people at the office, so another 100 people who have like responsible management roles for the event, and they build the whole volunteer organization basically around their own teams and their own needs and so on. So that's how you scale it. So around 50 to 100 people get some sort of salary from it. And then, of course, we have the professional event production company, the people who kind of do events for a living, so who we work with to create all the technical stuff and all the drawings and all of this. This is kind of something a person with no experience have done before, and they basically normal event production rates on like, and they of course get a normal salary in accordance of industry standards. So there's a lot of 35 producers, and basically my job is not only to take care of the organization like as a whole and the team that works for it, but I also am the boss of the whole kind of professional side of things. So I'm the link there. So I also need to take care of all these people who have like, I don't know, 1,000 years in combined experience in the event industry, and then you're supposed to somehow like manage and like make these 2 organizations work together in the right way to form like this event that will happen no matter what those 2 days. So it's a different pressure in terms of deadlines. For example, in the software industry, if you can't, you know, make a deadline or launch it, there's still like a bit of flexibility. But in the event business, the doors will open at 8 o'clock in the morning of that date, and they will be there, and that, you know, the whole thing needs to be in place. And have no.
Or just move the conference to Berlin. Everybody wakes up a little later, so
yeah.
you'll have those extra 20 minutes of time.
Could be.
But going back to like the money and the mistakes, you said to me, for you it was not all about the money. For you it was something you really loved to do, and that it felt more like it was a human accelerator working there.
Yeah, so Slush in essence, like the reason like I've stayed for so long, because nobody makes a career out of Slush. So you kind of move on when you graduate, and you know, life happens, you want to get a family, and you might still want to get some more salary than just barely enough, right? But I truly feel that in our organization, we can affect, you know, the future, or our future in some sort of way. in like helping other people build companies and like achieve their dreams and so on. So we like truly feel we're making a difference. And that's what gets you up in the morning, and it's really not easy to do anything. So when you talk about mistakes a lot of founders do, I feel I'm the kind of guy, I have like 4 best mans, so like really good friends, and they have all started at least 3 companies each. So I'm the kind of guy that they come to my sofa and then they talk about their problems. So I basically heard the stories of like 35 different companies like on the side of things. And what has been a unifying theme is that whenever somebody tries to build a company because they want to make money, it doesn't really want to work out, not in today's world. Like you can, yes, make a living and all of that, but when it gets really hard and really tough,
you really need to believe in it.
You really need to believe in it and like a cause, and you really want to fix something, you know. And if that's not there, then you it's easy to quit. You go like, whatever, let's just leave it here, and they go on to the next thing, right? So I can always find you something new, but if you really want to stick with it, you really need to believe in your product and what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. So just building a company and just wanting to make a living out of it, like it will never scale or become bigger or so on, because nobody will follow you if the only thing that makes you come to work is to get rich, basically.
And I guess the co-founder, right? I mean, there is some psychology behind having a co-founder who sticks through with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think founding together, like in a team, it's much nicer. It's just more fun, and it's a reason, actually, why work doesn't feel like work, because you can do it together and can live through all the ups and downs together, the good times and the bad times.
I mean, you two built a startup around analyzing feedback. So, do you give feedback to each other, or how do we have to imagine that?
Yes, actually we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, we do it on a constant basis, like once per week, and then bigger ones in a quarter.
Okay.
It's something we actually learned that we need to do it, because it's similar to a relationship. Like you need to tell the other person if there were things, like, in the way which didn't feel right, which you just need to speak out and say, on the one hand, I felt like bad in that moment when you said something, or you need to improve something. And I think this is, I guess, it's extremely important that in startups, founder teams communicate in a nice way with each other, because that's one of the main reasons why startup fails, because the founder team split.
Is it always nice, the discussions, when it's like feedback?
No, it's not.
I'm curious, do you have like structured like sessions for it, or is it like spontaneous? Is it like a calendar mark? Like
it is. Yeah,
so
it's
like every
mark.
week at Friday morning we give each other feedback. Or
Kind of, we have a one-on-one structure that we meet once per week. Like that was another learning we had I think it's one of the top 3 mistakes we made is, like, for 3 years we spent all time together, like 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. We even went to vacation together, even though we spent the entire time together. And then after 3 years, like, he got a girlfriend, I got a girlfriend. We didn't have the same kind of
So
way
there the
to
women
work.
come in, finally into the story. You see how it's going? The women are moving into the story, yeah?
Yeah, which was great, of course. But it meant, on the other side, that we didn't spend as much time together. And then we didn't have the same way to the work together, which we had beforehand. And we just had less time to communicate. And like in our work, we were sitting in the same office, but we had I had on average 15 meetings a day. So we didn't spend time during the day. And what happened is that we didn't talk. And we didn't have a structure for exchanging with each other. And then kind of tensions started to build up. And it really built up like for 2 months. And that was also economic, difficult situation for us in that time. Like for 2-3 months, we didn't really properly talk with each other. And then after a while, there came a really big burst. Like I wrote a feedback of 5 pages in Word, what were all the things that bothered me, and he did the same. And then afterwards we decided, okay, we need to change it, because before, just naturally we communicated and talked and cleared things. But that didn't work out when our private life changed. So what we have now is a really formalized structure that we meet every Monday for breakfast, that we have that's our, let's say, informal time, just hear how the weekend was, that we have in the afternoon a one-on-one, just a regular one, which you have with your employees as well. And then we have every second week we meet on Thursday night and just do something nice together. And I think this is, for me, it was a big learning. It's extremely important to have this. And now we have a third co-founder in a new company who joined our founder team, which is also like a challenging situation because, of course, he has not the knowledge as we have. And we try to get him really into the team, which means we do things together, going to cinema together, but doing it in rather, let's say, a structured way. We enjoy it as well, but I think it's very important. And I see that in my portfolio companies, often teams which are casted together didn't know beforehand that this is something they miss often. So they work together, but they don't spend time, and which I think spending time is important to gain trust in each other.
Any female leaders in your companies?
So our CEO is a female. So kind of the Nordic countries in general, like this gender equality thing is kind of embedded in society in general. Like we don't even think of it as a factor in any way. Like you look at our organization, we have more females than men currently at the moment. And yes, when you build a tech conference, kind of is up for discussion about like, do you have enough kind of female speakers in your lineup so you can like build role models and so on. And then we always have this discussion of, do you put, female speakers on stage just to get that presented up, or do they actually have something to say, or have they achieved something, or are they good? So you go into this discussion, and my personal opinion around it is just that, I just look at the people in my office and it's 50-50 and we have like 15 different nationalities. So like give it 20 years and, it will probably happen by itself in one way or another. And then what I'm always countered with that kind of saying that is that, will it actually? Like if we don't push, or if we don't set an example, or if we don't fight for the equality thing, will it actually happen by itself? Just because it's happening organically or naturally in our organization does not mean that it might happen in the rest of the world.
Meaning you all need to keep fighting. So to just quickly sort of sum it up, you said you truly need to believe in what you're doing.
Yes.
That could be a mistake if you're only doing it for the money. You need to take accounting seriously. You need your co-founder, and you need the feedback round.
Yes.
What did I miss out?
I would say also, asking for help. I mean, many believe that they cannot ask for help, or that people wouldn't help you if you wouldn't ask. So when you start, you like ask for help. Like just start with asking. It doesn't hurt to ask. They might like turn you down, but at least you ask, and you'll be surprised how much people would actually be willing to help you. So kind of a mistake would be to not ask for help, and then you tell your story, and then somebody goes like, so why didn't you ask me for help earlier? I would have gladly helped. And they go like, oh,
right.
Like why didn't I ask for help?
Speaking about help, before we go into your questions, Nicolas also does angel investments, right? So you helped 25 startups already that are technology-based with your investments and your input.
Yeah, right. That's something we did after we sold our first company, Flaconi, to ProSieben. We had a little bit of money and said we want to invest it into other companies to help them actually maybe avoiding mistakes that we have done. And at least 10 of the 20 companies use the same accounting software as my company does. I think this is one of the things, like helping, on the other hand, people who help you often what I've found in the last years is it's one of the most rewarding things is to see people growing, and that's something which is, like, I didn't understand at the beginning, which is for me now a big pleasure if I can help other people and see that it works. Like, I can write an introduction to somebody, and it's for me like a 1-minute effort, and it can mean that somebody finds a CTO for his company or whatever. So this is something which is actually, for me at least, it's a pleasure to do, and that's the reason why we invested also in startups, because it's nice to help others. It's it's just a pleasure.
Right.
So if you're founding a company, it's you can text me on one of the channels, Facebook or LinkedIn or Xing, and I'm happy to chat with you about your ideas.
So any questions to, oh, yeah, sorry. Any questions to either Paul or Nicolas? I think I just called you Nicolas, right? That's Paul, that's Nicolas. No questions whatsoever? One question over there.
Yeah. Where? Here. Don't be shy.
One question to Paul, was it?
That's Paul.
That's
Yeah.
me.
Sorry, that was my
That's the right one, yeah. How do you find top talent? Where do you look for when you want to hire people?
What do you mean, how to find talk time for?
No, when you search for new employees,
top talent.
how do you find them?
That's a good question. It's actually a question I'm still trying to answer. So right now we're trying to find new talents. So for example, we're looking for people in success management, account management. So if anybody is interested, just write me. And salespeople as well, and a good designer as well. I think it's on the one hand this network to see it's one thing to build up a big network to be able to reach out to the network when you know people, but I don't do that in a structured way, unfortunately. And then it's actually just using all the job sites and being present at conferences to see, yeah. Ask me in 10 years again, and hopefully I can give a better answer.
Thank you.
I have a question for Paul. So you were talking about that you couldn't pay your employees for 3 months. What was your communication strategy, and were people about to leave?
Okay, misunderstanding, or I miscommunicated. I didn't pay salaries for 3 months, but we had every month the challenge of not being able to pay the salaries, but we paid finally every month. But there was 1 month where we paid the salary at the 8th of the month. And actually I didn't tell my team that we have a challenging cash flow situation. And this is, looking backward, a mistake, because we always felt we shouldn't communicate too much. We shouldn't bother our team with all the stuff that is going on our side. But I realized if you give information to your team, actually they're not stupid people, so they actually get it, and they can support and then even can help to work with the problem. In the end, I think it's still the founder problem, but if you engage, the team can get engaged with this.
Thank you.
If I can add here just a very interesting remark of a lot of the Nordic unicorn companies, and something we employ as well. We are fully transparent with all our financial data for everybody in the organization. And companies like Supercell, who built Clash of Clans, like Skype, Spotify, they're all kind of the same, that anybody in the organization has the availability for all kind of data or financial stuff. So and it's in a weird way, when you're fully transparent, the employees commit in a different way, because they know as well what's going on, and kind of helps. Maybe somebody comes up with an idea of how to make the company survive, where the leadership team does not see it.
Anyone in the room founding a startup at the moment? All right, there are a few. You're going for it. Yeah, Tamara is
Hello,
waving her
girls.
hand. Great. Sorry, you had a question.
Paul, you were talking about a certain a certain amount of time that it takes to raise a certain amount of money, and that sometimes amounts of time are just not realistic. And I have been talking to a startup that has made a quite good plan, like marketing plan to raise money, but I just thought that the time within they wanted to do that was not realistic. But how, also maybe you can tell me more about that, how could you really find out if a certain time is realistic? Because is there I don't know, I was really not really trusting that.
I mean, in the end, it's experience to see kind of how much time it takes on average. The longest financing round I've done was 13 months, and that was like 13 months from the point where we started until we got the term sheet, and that was just one term sheet after 13 months, which was quite uncool. I mean, normally people start to raise late because it's not the nice thing to do, so you just procrastinate and think you don't need to do it. And then 3 months is something what people estimate, but just on average, I think it's rather 6 months, or at least it's even more than 6 months. And I don't know how to estimate it, because when you haven't done it, you don't know how long it takes from the moment when you've signed, for example, a contract until the money is on your account. That can take 6 weeks, and you need to cover the 6 weeks, but that's all stuff you need to know. So I would kind of say 6 months as a rule of thumb is a good one. Like if you want to be safe, then actually start 9 months earlier. And that's why when you start founding, actually you're in a constant fundraising modus. I think it never ends.
So if it's a common mistake, it would maybe be appreciated to question it again, and maybe talk to someone and ask them how they on which basis they estimated that time. Okay, thank you.
Maybe to add, I mean, a good plan is a good plan until it's no longer a viable plan. I mean, the only way of you knowing whether it's a good plan or not is just to start. And how long does it take? You don't know, and you might have to rework your plan totally in a very short amount of time. I mean, we live in a very complex society where things change really rapidly, so trying to guess something for the future is kind of hard. So I think also a mistake a lot of startups do is they create a product and then they think that has a perfect market fit, and that you would have to build something that is totally perfect the first time off, when the best way of doing it would be just to test. So you just push it out there even though it's not ready, see what happens. And the same way of raising money, you go and ask for advice. So as you go, I heard of this one founder, so he doesn't say he's raising money. What he does is that he goes to each potential advisor or a person he should ask about what they should be doing, and they're most likely investors, and he talks with those about how should I be raising money, what do you think I should be doing, and how should this round look like. So he gets buy-in from all of these people he would like to see investing in him maybe, and then he picks the right ones, and then after this advice process or this advice kind of road trip he does, then he just pings everybody afterwards and that this is what I decided to do, and are you gonna invest in me or not. So getting buying and advice the same time you're thinking about raising it. So the plan, the actual how to raise money changes when you go and seek advice. So it's a constant iteration, and then you seek advice from the people that would likely be investing in you or should be somehow stakeholders in the future, or experts in the industry and so on.
I mean, Paul, you also talked about hiring seniors to help you found your startup or built the startup and grow it?
Yeah, I think that's a classic mistake. Also what many people do, what we have done as well, is kind of, we just started with juniors. That was great. Like our first team was, I don't know, 10 interns. And that's fine for a while, but there's some point of time when you need to hire or to grow at least the people to really senior management level, and that's a mistake we have done. So at the end, I had like 8 to 9 direct reports instead of having like 2 to 3 that managed the company. And as a founder, the end, kind of when the company is a little bit bigger, you shouldn't do operator stuff. You shouldn't work. People should think, what do? You do nothing. Because your job is not to do stuff, you need to think about the development of the company. And for this, you need people who can take care of all the operative stuff that's going on. Mm-hmm. That's something we have done wrong until the end, so I would say, at Flaconi. It's something we're doing now a little bit different, where we have a mix of senior people, for example, in tech. They're only seniors, really good people, and we have some juniors, for example, working for my co-founder, me, who are just really passionate. So we train them, but they're so passionate, and that's, again, then a pleasure to work with them because they love what they do and are going the extra mile. So I think it's a mix, and I hope for our new company we don't do the same mistake that we hire too late the senior people.
I mean, you found 2 startups, so how do you manage your time management between the 2?
Kind of the new one, kind of, you mean like?
Well, the Flaconi and Zenloop.
Yeah, kind of, there we had kind of, we ended Flaconi and then started the new one. Whereas right now I have a fun challenge because I founded a 3rd company. It started as a private project and I'm organizing a classic dance ball. So we are organizing a ball for the German tech scene because I like dancing, I like nice dresses and so on. And I'm doing this together with a friend, Therese from KOACenter, founder of KOACenter. And that's getting challenging now because now I have like 2 businesses and we're getting into the hot phase of the ball is in 4 weeks and there's a lot of things that needs to be done. And let's say I'm not sure how to tackle it because right now it's just working more and more.
Well, earlier in Antje's presentation we saw that there are more male founders. That's just because of you, because you found 3 already. That's just messing up the statistics. Time is almost up. Do you want to make one last statement, one piece of advice you want to push, or one thing you didn't say so far to the girls?
Could start.
The biggest mistake of like entrepreneurs in general is to think that they cannot make it, so they don't even try. So the first step is always just to start and see what happens. And like everybody's afraid of failing, and that's just part of the whole thing. So just start.
And actually, I believe, and that's something I believe for 20 years now, that you can achieve everything that you want if you really want it. And that's something many people don't share, but actually I believe you can do everything. So I grew up in very small, let's say, my mother was a single woman raising her kids, pretty poor financial, and it's possible you can do it if you want it.
On that note, thank you so much, Paul and Nicolas. And sorry about the name mix-up.
Thank you.